So hi everybody, thank you for tuning into this user group meetup, and particularly for folks who work in finance. Doesn't matter what department within the firm you work. It's just that we wanted to have something for the folks who work in insurance, finance, banking, anything to do with money changing hands. And we thought, what it's a good way to help you all. Set up digital signatures if you already don't. I'm happy to know that a lot of you are already very familiar with the digital signature landscape as it is, and are looking to learn to do it better. And hopefully this session will offer some insights on how you can go about doing that. Um, so I am Sai Anand. I've been with Zoho for the past 6 years. And at this point, I've grown to become this evangelist of sorts for Zoho Sign, because I'm that guy who's sort of screaming out with a megaphone all the time, asking people to use digital signatures, because we see that a lot of businesses, at least two out of three businesses, are still doing things pen and paper, or they're probably not setting up automations to get things done in a way we envision them to do so that it's easier for them. And especially in finance, people know all about making sure you minimize your costs, making sure your bottom line is not really impacted by what your expenditures are turning out to be. And Zoho Sign is something that can really make an impact on that front. So we want to try and help you understand its benefits and hopefully implement it into your Zoho workflows or even third-party workflows to help you get your paperwork sorted out. Uh, so yeah, let's go ahead with the session. So I want to just quickly run you through what I planned for this presentation. I hope to not take more than about say 30 to 40 minutes of your time. You are welcome to unmute yourself and ask questions in the middle. And we will have a sort of a collective question answer segment towards the end anyway. So in the meantime, I'll just walk you through what Zoho Sign is in case you're not familiar with the app. What we set out to achieve by creating Zoho Sign as one of the 50 odd tools that Zoho has, and some features within Zoho Sign that can help you get things done in a better manner. Rather than just giving you a very basic demo of the app, I want to sort of touch on a few things which would help you do things a little bit better. Yeah. So this will include features like templates, sign forms, knowledge-based authentication. Of course, we have Zia in Zoho, which is our own AI assistant, which operates within the platform, helping you do stuff across applications and how it can help you within Zoho Sign. I also have custom roles and permission profiles, which is basically user access provisioning and segmentation of data visibility within Zoho Sign, which can help you sort of have your data be split across different groups of users. And I will also walk you through some integrations across Zoho. I heard people mention the other applications that they've been using. So some of these application integrations are being featured. So you can understand, at least you can, if you're already using it, you'd know that you're using it right. If you don't use it, then you can understand that you can do this as well. And of course, there's payment collection as well, which is something a lot of people still do not know that is there within Zoho Sign. So yeah, these are the things I'll be covering, and then we can take questions as and when they come or towards the end. Doesn't matter. So I'll start with like a pitch, because I feel like this is something I have to do to get people sold on the idea of digital signatures. So as you all might probably know, the world normally runs on agreements. In the business world, agreements are driven by paperwork, which in turn gets signed. And if there are transactions that are following up, the paperwork, then payments are made and so on. But the process of just getting about an agreement established in general has multiple steps in it. And it's fairly repetitive and fairly cumbersome to get done, right? Earlier, when people did it by hand, did it by pen and paper, it required a lot of running around. It required a lot of papers changing hands and getting people on hold to try and sit in front of you and shake hands and get documents signed and so on. But what has happened is that we sort of went through a 3-year pandemic, and that has changed the way people do things, right? The process remains the same, but the approach has drastically changed. And a lot more businesses now operate remotely, and workspaces are very hybrid, right? So people aren't often within the same four walls to be able to collaborate in real time and shake hands quite literally to get deals done. right? And every experience that we do tends to be digital first nowadays before we even meet face to face. Even this particular meeting is happening virtually, right? If not, we could have easily flown over to the various countries you're from and had a group discussion in person. But we choose to do it this way because it's far more convenient, far more inclusive, and far more uh, it's just way easier to access for people across time zones. So yeah, transactions in general tend to occur across time zones now, across borders now. It's not like business did not operate in this manner earlier. It's just that the way we executed them, we approached them was far more time consuming earlier. Now it's a lot easier with the internet being the vessel that we all operate on. So with this approach comes its fair share of challenges, right? And paperwork in itself is actually a challenge because paperwork is there in every particular operation or process that your business takes a lot of details into before proceeding with. So especially in finance, in BFSI, in banking and insurance and so on, you have paperwork that concerns every step of executing a deal or a transaction. You have applications, you have insurance, you have processes for knowing your customer, you have agreements, contracts, power of attorneys, waivers, liabilities, beneficiary additions, reports, tax filing, compliance, and so on. All of this requires paper documents that requires signatures on them or approvals on them, and that needs to change hands for different people to view, different stakeholders or parties to agree on and shake hands on, right? And this in itself inherently being a challenge combines with other challenges of the newer approach that we have in how we are doing paperwork these days, is that we're doing it virtually now, we're doing it online, so business is being done across time zones, and that in itself is a challenge because people are up at different times, and when there is something that's time sensitive, they need to sort of collaborate at the same time, and availability becomes an issue. So how do we make sure everything that is time sensitive gets done is one of the challenges. And paperwork, as I said, is very cyclical, very repetitive, and it's very cumbersome. When you're doing the same thing over and over again, there is a very that is one of the easiest ways to sort of lose your focus, and people tend to make mistakes. And on the business front, making mistakes can cost you a lot of money. So we try and avoid that, and that is why automation and error checking comes in place to ensure that we do not make mistakes in paperwork. And of course, when you're doing it online, there is an inherent concern of whether something is secure, whether something can be trusted, and so on. Back in the days, we sort of pandered to our human what do I say, emotions or human intuitions, if I can say that. When we shook hands over a table physically, that sort of helped us see things in person. We were able to feel that, and that kept us assured in the sense that what we're doing is real, it's happening, and we can trust the process. But now it's happening virtually, and that in itself presents a concern as to whether we're being duped into doing something that could lead to financial loss, or we're being scammed and stuff like that. Just the internet being the internet, right? And this adds to a lot more concerns that sort of cascade, such as privacy and non-compliance and so on, because now you're operating in the finance industry, which is heavily regulated as it is, and you're doing business in a manner that you yourself don't trust. So how are you supposed to establish that trust with the authorities? So compliance also becomes a question of concern. So all of this put together in general, when you do paperwork, presents a very low confidence in business deals in this particular era and the way we approach it. And that is primarily what we are attempting to solve with Zoho Sign. And Zoho Sign is way beyond just a tool for you to sign documents, right? It is something we call the complete digital signature solution from Zoho. And the reason for that is because there are so many more things that you can add to just signing documents, like workflows, automation, making sure your costs are kept under control. There is well established efficiency across processes. Your stakeholders are saving on their time, and they do not actually have to review documents over and over again. And more importantly, there are questions of concern, as I said earlier, which are addressed by making sure that the documents are legally binding, they have integrity by design, and they are secure, they are accessible. And of course, you have access to all of this information that you can produce in court in the case of a dispute, such as audit trails and reports and so on. So all of that sort of bundled very nicely into one nice little application, which has platform capabilities is Zoho Sign, and that is what we want to present as a solution to all the Zoho users. Now, as an application, it is available across all platforms. Though it is a primarily web application, it is primarily a web application. We do have native applications for other platforms like Android, iOS if you're using mobile devices, or even macOS and Windows if you're into using desktops and laptops. So the beauty of it is that since it is a cloud-based application, all of it is synchronized over the internet. So anything that you start on one device or in one place can be synchronized with the cloud, and you can carry it on from another place and another device. So just to give you an example, let's say you're reviewing a document, you're about to sign it, but you're called into a meeting. But that meeting turns out to be one of those meetings where you're just sitting there at somebody presenting a slide deck like this particular call, and you feel like you could take a moment or two to review the document there. Then you can probably pull your phone out and use an application to continue the process. So yeah. So that sort of helps you stay on top of your paperwork, and more importantly, as a Zoho user, if you're plugged into the Zoho ecosystem where you're using multiple Zoho applications, Zoho Sign sort of transforms itself into a service level application which integrates with several applications in the back end, allowing you to create workflows for getting documents signed and managing your paperwork from within those applications interfaces themselves, so that it's easier for you to just get things done contextually without having to ever switch tabs. And this is not something that we limit ourselves to the Zoho ecosystem, but also we also provide integrations with third-party ecosystems, and we provide a full-fledged set of developer tools like APIs, SDKs, webhooks, and collections of APIs that can be used to integrate with either your own in-house applications or with third-party applications as well. Now, something that we stand out, or some place where we feel like we're doing a better job than most of the other vendors in the market, is that we have started exploring deeply integrated services across the globe by introducing digital trust as one of the core tenets of the application itself. Where what we do is we integrate with regional trust services like identity providers, digital signature providers, timestamp providers, and so on, to introduce those services which are often linked with transactions, either by law or regulation, or simply as a matter of additional trust or convenience that people tend to have so as to be able to feel confident. And that in itself makes the application a much more attractive proposition for people who operate in the finance industry. So just to give you an example, I could sense that a lot of people here are from either Canada or the US. So over there, you have your social security, right, which tends to act as one of the common forms of identity and a measure of being able to prove your identity wherever you need to go, right? So what we've done is for documents requiring somebody to establish their identity in a very clear manner, we have something where you can integrate with an identity provider, and that provider will help us verify the identity of the person signing a document at the time of signing, which in turn helps us reinforce the credentials onto the document where their identity is being captured. So this is something that is mandated in some industries, and in some industries it is not mandated, but is a very nice addition to have. And we also foresee that it will be written into law as something that is a standard practice across industries. So we sort of saw this across different regions, and we decided to just sort of reach out, spread our roots, and integrate with various trust service providers across the globe and have all of these features brought into Sign. So we have authentication, we have signatures, we have timestamping, we have stamp duty payment, and we also have blockchain-based timestamping. And yeah, hi.
Hi,
Yeah,
sorry, am I allowed to interrupt and ask a quick question on the last point?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. So the identity on authentication, how does that work in business finance? They're prompted to, on other platforms I've seen, they're prompted to answer questions that only they would know, like what address did you live at, what color was this car, yada yada.
Exactly.
Is that similar? Okay.
Yeah, it's you kind of got that bang on. It's called knowledge-based authentication. It's one of the most commonly used ways to identify somebody. That is part of my presentation later on, where I actually show you how it works. So, but yeah, you're spot on with how that is being done, at least in the US. Elsewhere, what we do is we integrate with the direct government identity providers. So, if you see at the top left, you see Aadhaar, which is the national identity we have in India, and you can see the EU, the lock with the check mark, that is EU EID, which is various collections. It is a collection of various identities across the EU that are issued by actual national authorities. These are all, we have different methods, which are methods and service providers with whom we integrate with to either obtain these credentials on the fly and validate them, or as you said, we have the option to be able to produce questions by scraping off data from basic information that we have of them and have them answer them to sort of to a certain degree of certainty. We can establish that this is their identity. But yeah, I'll give you a demo as I go on. Yeah. So the reason why we do this is because the e-signature landscape, at least on the legal front, is fairly diverse, in the sense that there is no one particular rule or law that applies across the globe. Different countries have different legislation, and all of them recognize electronic signatures or digital signatures to varying extents. Some have an open model where they simply just leave it very open and say that, yeah, we accept e-signatures, but then they place the burden of proof or the onus of proving that the e-signature was in fact authentic on the signers themselves, which is as good as saying, I don't care, if you put it electronically or on a piece of paper, as long as you can prove that you did it, yeah, I'll accept that. But there are laws which are very clear in specifying how a digital signature needs to be captured, where we have tiered models with different levels of e-signatures being recognized by design, which on the other hand, sort of leaves it to the authorities themselves to verify if a signature is valid or if a signature is in fact authentic and so on. So the reason I'm saying this is because of the varying laws, there are commonly different types of e-signatures that have been sort of suggested or named based on how they're captured within a document. And Zoho Sign as a service offers in different regions all of these different categories of signatures, so as to be able to allow you to comply with your local regulation rather than just relying on having your signers turn up to court and say, hey, I did sign this, or dispute whatever's on a document. So some of these laws, especially in the Europe, the EIDAS law requires qualified electronic signatures, and that requires a very specific mechanism of the signature itself being issued to signers. And we do have that in place through an integration, so that we know that when a document is being signed with a qualified electronic signature through Zoho Sign, no court in Europe is going to say, hey, I'm not going to accept this because I don't recognize what's happening here. Because the signature certificates will come from third parties which are accredited by the authorities in Europe. And as a result, that makes us compliant and so on. So yeah, in addition to all of this, Zoho Sign also extends the platform security and the privacy principles that Zoho in general tends to operate with. And especially in Zoho Sign, because you're dealing with business documents, which more often than not tend to be confidential, we have a blanket encrypt everything policy, meaning all your documents and data are encrypted at both at rest and in transit. And the access to your account can be secured through Zoho single sign-on and multi-factor authentication mechanisms. And Zoho, as always, has had this policy of not placing any trackers or having any ads on our platform, which makes the user experience a lot better and alleviates your concerns of privacy being breached and so on. And of course, we do pride ourselves in having a very high uptime, and we offer bank level security for features that require the respective compliance frameworks to be applied. And we also have data redundancy and data integrity measures in place where you can automatically back up your data to cloud storage. You can have your data available to you on demand whenever you ask for it. And we also respect privacy laws. We respect data residency laws, allowing you to store data in your local data centers. And we have our own data centers in different regions of the world, which are subject to regular audits and certification checks and so on. So yeah, with that, I feel like I've covered what Zoho Sign offers in general as an application, just an overview. But I also want to get into what we plan to offer and what we're actively working on. So the road ahead for us means that we sort of see the world of digital signatures and digital trust or digital identity converging at some point. And as a result of that, all of these services will soon be banded together and offered as a bundle by most vendors. And we already saw that coming, and we've started to build out features for things like notarization, video-based signing. We also want to integrate with many more trust service providers. So I showed you about 20 trust service providers that we integrate with, but we are expanding that list. We're in talks with another 20, and we hope to have a list that spans about 100, 200 odd in the next 5 years or so. And of course, we also, as much as we offer developer tools allowing you to customize and integrate with other platforms, we want to build some ourselves as well. We want to identify opportunities where there's a large scope for integration and build integrations that is so much easier than leaving it to the third party third party developers, or the freelancing community to come up with. So yeah, put together, we just want to make sure our focus on compliance is always there, and we ensure that the convergence of digital signatures and digital identity, as and when it happens, we are not left behind when it comes to the market. So yeah, I will now quickly just move on to running you through the smaller features that I wanted to talk about. So I have demos written here, but some of it will be demos, some of it will be just videos that I want to play out, because I feel like if I start showing demos, it'll take up a lot more time. But I'm happy to show one-on-one demos later on when people ask for it. And yeah, so first up, I wanted to just talk about templates and sign forms within Zoho Sign. Now, Zoho Sign, let me just quickly shift over to my Sign dashboard screen. So this is the application. Now, a lot of people here already have mentioned other applications that they use, like DocuSign or PandaDoc, for getting e-signatures, even Adobe Sign as well. So all the applications pretty much do the same thing, right? They help you get your documents signed, and you can construct workflows, and depending on which particular industry or vertical that they cater to, they may have niche features which that particular domain might find useful, right? But within Zoho Sign, that is pretty much the case when it comes to the application by itself, the base application. But more often than not, the idea here is we want to help you automate things, make it more efficient, and we want to reduce the repetitiveness of any manual task that you would need to do using the application or otherwise. So when it comes to the application itself, on the dashboard, you have the two primary functions: being able to sign a document yourself, or being able to send a document out for signatures. Now, if I want to send a document out for signatures, all I would need to do is just add the different documents that I would need to send out, and that would form an envelope, or a signature request, or whatever you call it. And I can give that a name. I can sort of add multiple recipients. I can specify the recipient details. I can even sort of go ahead and customize things further inside for each recipient by adding a private note, authentication, choosing which provider they can use, and so on. But this is the very basic workflow construction process that you would do for every document that you need to get signed. But what if there is a way in which you could sort of reduce the reconstruction process every time, right? What if you have documents that are templatized and you would need to send that out over and over again, and you do not want to spend time creating this workflow from scratch? So that's where templates sort of come in, right? So if you go to templates, if I click on, say, create template, or even better, I'll open up an existing template and I'll show you what it looks like. So this is a template that I've created for a partnership agreement document. And the idea here is you would see the same screen as the one that you would get into when you want to send a document out for signatures. But over here, what you do instead is, instead of defining the recipients, you would define the roles in which the recipients would sort of act on or participate in. And you set up the entire workflow, you get inside the document, and you actually drag and drop the different fields required for each of the recipient or the roles. As you can see, you have fields of different colors, and these fields would sort of correspond to the respective recipients. Right? And you also have pre-fill fields, which you can fill in with information that you already have available at the time of sending the document out. So once you have this set up, then it becomes so much easier for you or your users to make use of these templates to send documents out, right? From that point on, it simply becomes either a double click process, or a process that can be further customized. So if I want to send this partnership agreement out, now you've already seen me set up the template. It's already set up. So when I'm a user who's using this template, all I see is the screen when I click on it. I just decide to sort of add it to a particular folder. Now I can specify the name and email and the different details of the people that need to sign this document, and I can just click on quick send, and that would instantly send the document out, right? So that saves a lot of time in any scenario where you have the same document being sent out over and over again. But let's say there is a slightly modified scenario where you have a template of a document, but you actually do not know who the signer is. So in this case, now if it's a partnership agreement, right, I would know who the partner or the agent or the account manager is before I send this document out. But let's say I have an agreement, let's say I have a document like an onboarding form or an application form where that form is typically published somewhere and you don't really know who is going to come up and fill that form out at any point in time. So you would need something like a public self-service process, right? So for that, what you can actually do is you can create a template and you can create a sign form out of it. So a sign form is essentially a template, but the template's recipients are operating in a self-service manner and whatever document that you create. So let me just quickly create a template out here. So let me add a document to give you an example. All right. All right, so I'm just running with like a social media policy sample here. So if this is a single person a document that is being signed by a single person, I would just say this is the signer who's going to sign this document, and I'm going to leave the rest of the stuff out for this particular demonstration. But yeah, let's say I've configured all of this, right, and I've left a note and I've configured the settings and how long they get to complete the document and so on and so on. Now I can go inside, I can add my fields, right? So let me just quickly add just a signature field here. I'm going to click on save. Now this social media policy, I'm going to put it out on my website or some place where I need anybody who's visiting to sign up to it automatically so that they understand the terms of use or whatever, right? What I can do is I can quickly convert this into a sign form, which I can give a name to. So let me just call it social media policy. And I can specify how long it's valid for, if I want to enforce a OTP, if I want to limit the number of responses that I receive, if I want to avoid duplicate responses and so on. So once I create the sign form, what I get is I have a public URL. So this is the URL that I have. So let me just quickly open up this URL on an incognito window. So this is what the URL, the person who opens the form sees. They see their a very basic form where they can enter their email address and their name. So let me just go ahead and enter my name and email address here. So yeah, right. So if I just click on start signing, I'm immediately presented with this document that I had set up earlier, and I can start to sign this document. I can review this document. I can look at the terms that the sender has set for me, and then I can proceed to just sign this document out. Let me agree to this the terms, and let me just sign it. Yeah. So this is a very simple way of setting up something that is a form-based signing workflow, which you can use in scenarios commonly in finance where you would have forms which could. Now what I've shown you is very simple. It's very basic, but you could have a lot more complex forms with multiple recipients with where only the first signer changes every time and so on. So that is the flexibility that you have with the application, but the setup process is fairly simple and it's fairly easy to understand. And if I go inside the sign forms, I can see that there's a response that's already come in, and there's associated. I can view who has signed it, what's the address, and so on. So this is one of the uh, best productivity features that we feel like we have, but a lot of people don't really get into it as much because, of course, to some people, the volume of documents that they send out on a regular basis is fairly doesn't require them to set up all these features. But for people, I heard somebody say that they send out about 500, 600 documents using Zoho Sign every month, right? So that is the volume where you would definitely need to start exploring using these features to get your productivity and efficiency levels up, so that you're actually making the best out of the application to drive signatures. Moving on, so I'll quickly speak
Hey,
about knowledge. Hey, hi.
Zach,
Yeah,
can I ask one question? Is there a
absolutely.
way? Is there a way to embed that URL link that you just described into Zoho Forms, so that when they're uploading documents, they can click on that link, let's say for an NDA that they can pre-sign? If so, where would that is there a way to have that signed document come back into the client's account, right? Because right now, if you send mail merge, right, if you create a template and mail merge, and you send it out via the account or via the contact, as soon as they sign it, it goes back into their actual account, right, under their name and all that stuff. So if you're doing it with forms, I built out my form section so that I can put in a company's name and it either updates a record or creates a new record. What I'm wondering is can you have that URL so that it will kick back a signed document within that account that's created? Is there a way of doing that, do you think? And you don't have to answer right now. Maybe you can email me if you think about it, but that would be a game changer for me.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick answer based on what I understood from your question. So you've set up something in Zoho Forms, and the form plays out as they fill it out, and there's a process that is set to happen after they hit submit, at which point they would need to self-sign something, and that goes back into their account either within your CRM. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, bang on. Yeah.
All right. So what you're essentially asking for is sort of like a three-way integration between Zoho CRM, Zoho Forms, and Zoho Sign. This is something that we've been requested to build for quite a bit now, and we are working on it. But as of now, I'm afraid that does not really exist, because in CRM, if you use the extension to trigger the document out for signature, yes, that does come back into CRM because it's fairly contextual in the way you set it up. But if it happens via Zoho Form, the trigger is happening at Zoho Forms, and there isn't the level of automation that we want there present at the moment to be able to recognize that that particular form is being filled out by somebody who's already on your CRM, and to fetch that document from Sign based on the data they enter inside Forms and then put it into CRM. Of course, you can do extensive automation through Zoho Flow. You can use Deluge to sort of have this automated as of now even. You can have a lookup field within Zoho Form that allows you to identify that this person has filled out the form and therefore this document needs to go in. But all of that logically works, but there is no off-the-shelf capability that we have at the moment. But I'm happy to have a further conversation with you to help you out if you can set it up through Zoho Flow or Zoho Deluge. Later on.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, customers are inherently lazy. So if I've already got their attention of filling out documents, I want to get those signatures done at the same time instead of going back and forth. So yeah, thanks for answering.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure. All right. So I'll move on to knowledge-based authentication. So this is something that somebody had asked earlier, right? So how does the identity verification happen within Zoho Sign? So this is something that is specific to the US at this point in time because it operates with a vendor that is based out of the US and it takes in social security information. But the idea here is, so let me quickly jump back into Zoho Sign. If you're from the US, you can verify the identity of somebody who's filling out one of your documents by having this enabled. So you can go to integrations, and inside integrations, you will have something, you have a tab that says identity providers. So over here, you have this option, dynamic knowledge-based authentication, or KBA via Ideology. So Ideology is the vendor that we integrate with, and they are a trust service provider in the United States that is accredited by the United States authorities. And to enable this is it's fairly self-explanatory if you know how to get it done. Just give me a second. Yeah. So if you click on configure, all you have to do, you would have a button that says enable. When you click on enable, what happens is you have a bunch of stuff that you need to read to understand how this this works. So the idea is the signers will be asked to provide some information. Now, this is not going to be information that is very explicit. Rather, it's going to be like, say, enter the last 4 digits of your social security and enter your date of birth, year of birth, or something like that. And this information is used to then corroborate with publicly available information or information that is leased to such trust service providers from credit bureaus and government records and so on. And that will then fetch a list of questions that the signers can answer, which technically is something that only the signers would know the answers to. It would ask questions which can establish the identity to a fairly certain degree. I will show you an example as to what the questions will look like. But yeah, the idea is you have questions that only they can answer to, and if they answer the questions correctly, then they are shown the document, and you also have a record of them identifying themselves by being able to answer these questions correctly. And you can set up the questions, like the number of questions, how many attempts they get, and if they're allowed to challenge a decision and so on within the integration page as you're setting it up. And once you've set this up, from that point on, any document that you send out, it'll sort of look like this. So the signer will have the document sent to them via email, where they click start signing, and they're taken to the document. So then they're provided with the KBA form, where they have to enter their year of birth, the last 4 digits of their social security, and maybe like their address and postal code. So this information is then used to fetch questions which only they can know answers to. And sometimes it can carry questions like, what was the last transaction that you performed? Which card did you use to perform this transaction, and so on. So typically, it's a mixed bag of questions, which not somebody who would impersonating this person would easily know the answers to. And you can also set the threshold for how many answers need to be right to actually validate them and take them into the document, and so on. So this is already an established industry standard practice within the US. And that's ideally what we bring integrated into the digital signing workflow within Zoho Sign. So yeah, the person who asked me the question, who asked me to explain this earlier on, I hope this sort of gives you a very hands-on understanding of the experience that the signers go through.
It does. Thank you very much. And
Yeah.
so the answers to those questions, we're the ones asking the questions, right? So we're going to look at their credit report. We're going to determine, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah. So moving on, I'd like to touch a bit on the AI capabilities that we've so far built into Zoho Sign. As you may already know, if you've been using Zoho applications for quite some time, we've been building Zia, which is our own AI solution or AI assistant. Now, there are so many ways to describe AI these days. AI pretty much does everything that businesses want them to do. But Zia has been the AI persona that we've built within the Zoho ecosystem that allows you to get a lot of things done. Earlier, there were capabilities built into other applications like CRM, Sales IQ, Desk, and more often than not, it tends to be a very chatbot-ish thing across vendors, across applications. But in Zoho, our approach is a lot different. Here, we want to understand contextually as to what the AI can do for you, rather than just being a chatbot that allows you to have conversations. So what we did within Sign was, the first thing was the most common problem with a lot of people having lengthy documents. And that is, so let's say, so let me close this. Now let's say you have a document that is about, say, 30 pages long, right? And you have a lot of blanks. And when you're creating a workflow from scratch, the first time at least, you would spend a substantial amount of time just making sure you drag and drop all the fields of information that needs to go onto the document into the right place, and positioning them and making sure you get it right. And after you do that, you save it as a template, or maybe if you're somebody that likes to do it manually every time, just to ensure things are done properly, then you do it over and over again. But what we have introduced is, we've introduced Zia to allow you to detect fields in a document. So let me probably try and get a document here. So okay, let me just use this purchase order as an example. So this is the document. I'm just going to add myself as a signer here. Forgive me for opting for convenience at this point. So I'm going to click on continue. And once I enter the document, it's going to ask me to automatically just, if I wish to detect the form fields. So if I click on assign fields to a recipient, if I click on ignore form fields, then the AI field detection is not even going to kick in, right? But if I click on assign fields to recipient, then I can choose among the recipients whom the detected fields will be added to. Now, even otherwise, now if I click on proceed, it's going to automatically detect fields and apply them. So you wouldn't even need to sort of drag and drop. And even beyond this, right, let me show you something else that's even cooler. So let's say I want to add another document here. Let's pick a lease agreement or something like that. Okay, I have a rental agreement here. So now I'm going to click on continue. What's going to happen is you will have this very nice little detect fields assistant that pops out from the bottom right. Right now, for this particular document, fields have already been detected. The first, because it was just one document, it was already showing that to you. But now that I've updated this request to add another document, Zia now understands that there's been a change in the request, and it comes up and asks you, hey, do you want to detect more fields in this document? And I click on continue. At this point, it's going to ask me which document among the two documents that I added to detect fields for. So let's say I select the second document, and again, I can pick the recipient I want to assign the fields. Now, because this is being done through AI and it requires a lot of processing, there is a limitation on how many pages at a time we can detect fields for. But this is a fairly small document, right? It's a 3-page document. This can actually extend into, so 15 pages per document at a time is what you can detect fields up to for. But I'm going to detect fields for these 3 pages in this document. So if I click on detect and insert, it's going to work its magic, and you're going to change, you're going to see a whole lot of change on the document once it's done. So yeah, you can see that now this particular document is all filled up as well, right? And it, in fact, it is fairly contextual in the sense that it reads the document and it understands what the document field label could possibly be, and it tries to predict that as well. And then you can go ahead and change the field name, the character limit, and all of that. And so this is the kind of innovation that we're trying to build inside Zoho, wherein we want to reduce the amount of time that you're creating workflows for. Even if there is enough automation existing in place, we want to make it even more functional for you to maximize what technologies come out. So this is one of the key implementations of AI we have within Zoho Sign. And of course, this is a document that is fairly jargon riddled. So the fields may not have done a good job in predicting what sort of field goes where. But we've tested this with various kinds of forms, tax forms, banking forms, and so on, and it has done a very good job in being able to detect the right kind of fields to go in all the places that you need to insert fields onto. So yeah, this is one of, yeah.
Can I jump
Somebody
in
has a
one
question?
thing? Yeah,
Absolutely.
the only problem I found with this one is that if you have multiple signers, it's a mess and it's really hard to fix up.
Yeah.
And my advice to anybody doing this, and it is a lot of work, but I would actually take this document and put it into mail merge templates. Like, so put it into Writer and then create a mail merge template so that you pre-populate all this stuff. So it comes right from accounts or from contacts. And then all you have to worry about is the signature parts or the little details. But when it's fully open like this, my experience has been that the product is not where it needs to be. But it is exciting for the future to cut time out. But I think if you built this in templates and used a mail merge first so that all the information was getting pulled from the account, and then you ran this just for the small signature parts and the dating parts, then it would work. It would work a lot better. That's just my experience.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback. Absolutely. I tend to agree with you as well, because this is in its early stages, and we're still getting there with AI, right? So as of now, the limitation that we have here is when the AI algorithm runs into detecting fields, you can only assign it to any one particular recipient. So if you have 4 or 5 recipients, as you said, absolutely, you can not assign it to multiple recipients in one shot. So what you have, the workaround that we would suggest is perhaps just select one signer at a time, but each of the fields, you can always click on the field and you can change the recipient. So I can change it to a different recipient after the field has been inserted. And that in some way would help you save the time. But I agree, it needs to be doing it a lot better. And hopefully we have that available for you to make use of in a better way. But mail merge is an absolutely killer feature when you, especially when you're using Zoho CRM or the other applications where you have a writer built in for you to be able to build out documents with merge capabilities. That is absolutely the way to go. Yeah. So yeah, this is one of the AI features that we have. Now, the next feature we have is something that we feel would be fairly beneficial to high-level executives. So let's say you have an office secretary who's often preparing the documents and creating the workflows, getting them signed. But then you have the secretary reports to, say, like a CXO level employee, right, or a manager or a lead, and this person is busy as they are doing a lot of things. So oftentimes they are aware of what they need to sign on, they're aware of the terms, they're briefed and all of that, but they don't really have the time to sit and go through a document word to word, right? So in such scenarios, what we have is the ability to summarize a document. So here you have like this partner agreement. Now imagine that this document is, like, say, 40 pages long, right? So somebody who needs to sign this document is already aware of it. So when they're aware of it, they trust their secretary to have done a good job. So what they can do is they can summarize the document to understand what it signifies, and they can just get a sort of a glimpse of what's there on the document and go ahead and proceed to sign the document, right? So this, again, it needs to be used with discretion, because somebody can very easily just skip over terms and might miss something out. But again, this is one of the beginner features that we have in place for people who are contextually aware of what's happening and would benefit from having that extra bit of detail uh, just summarized for them so that they don't have to spend extraordinary amounts of time going through a document word to word. So this is the other feature that we have in terms of AI capabilities. But yeah, these are the two that we have already built inside Zoho Sign, and we are exploring other capabilities like the ability to actually generate an agreement from scratch, putting in all the legal terminologies and clauses and so on. That itself is something that we're working on actively at this point. But when you integrate Zoho Sign with so many other applications across Zoho, you get to have the combined benefit of using AI across applications to put all of this information together in a nice manner to work with. So yeah, so this was the third feature that I wanted to sort of just highlight. Next is the ability for you to sort of create a hierarchy among your users within the org by setting up roles, profiles to ensure you have the right kind of control given to your users and the right segmentation of data being made visible to your users as well. So for this, once again, let me just jump into Zoho Sign and sort of walk you through how you can do this. So this is a Zoho Sign dashboard. So you can, if you're an administrator, you can go inside settings and you can go to users and control. Now, earlier what we had was just the option to add users, invite them, manage them, change their profile, and so on. But it was fairly restrictive, right? Because we had just two roles: we had the administrator or we had the user. And one of the most common pieces of feedback that we got was anybody that was assigned administrator was just able to see everything across across the organization. They were able to see all the documents that was within the organization, and they also had access to modify the settings of the organization at any point in time. So this led to a lot of data being shared beyond the boundaries of it, beyond the boundaries of its required visibility, and it also led to concerns of unauthorized access or things being changed around. So we went and sort of drew up a model in which you could make this a lot more fine grained and define the access control and visibility in a much more streamlined manner. So what we did was we left the users tab to be the way it was, where you can simply add, invite, change, delete users. But we introduced three other tabs. We introduced something called user groups, and this is something that you can do to sort of create teams or groups of users with whom you can share data. So what you can do is you can create a group. And so if I can open up the group that I've already created. So this is a group that's called HR. If I go inside the group, there's currently just one person. But if I want to add other people to this group, I can simply just type their name out. And if they're among my users, I can add them and create the user group. And the idea here is if I've created user groups, provided they belong to, say, a same function or a department or a team, then I can proceed to create roles with whom the data belonging to the user groups can be made visible to. For example, here we have the two default roles that we offered earlier, admin and user, but I've created an additional role called HR. So what I've done is, so if I create a role, I can give it a name and a description, and then it opens up the option for me to completely define the data sharing within that particular role. So here I have not associated anybody with this role, but I can associate users inside the users tab. So here I can go and associate them to a particular role. But inside the roles itself, I'm sorry, inside the roles itself, when I click on, when I'm setting up a role, in the data sharing tab, you can actually choose what documents or which user groups from which you want to share documents onto with that particular user group, or which documents you can, which US documents you wish to share with that group, or which folders from which you want to share documents with that group, and so on. And one common complaint that we received was that administrators had access to templates, and they were able to make changes to the templates without realizing that they were making changes to templates on the fly. And so what we did was we limited the access to templates, and now they can be shared with groups for them to just use and not modify the template itself. So these sort of fine-grained mechanisms in which you can share documents or groups and templates with users allows them to see only what they need to see or what is shared with them, and that way you can create those invisible walls of separation across data between departments and roles and functions and so on. And similarly, now, yeah.
So I can ask one more question. So
yeah,
that covers one side of it. How would you create a template in Sign that has a default for only a user to sign? So right now, if you have a template in an account and you bring it up to send with Zoho Sign, right? So the customer has to sign it. There may be a document in there that the customer shouldn't see and shouldn't sign that's internal. So I need that particular document to have a default to either another user like you're showing here within HR. So if HR has to say, let's say, for instance, they have to validate an agreement. Well, the customer doesn't see that. Only the individual user would need to do that. So how would you default that as a next step?
Okay. All right. I'd like to sort of clarify what you're asking for here. So you mean to say when you are creating an envelope by clicking on Send with Zoho Sign from within Zoho CRM, you would have, say, two different sets of documents. One would be visible to the customer and one would be visible just for the user. Am I correct in understanding that?
Keep them as separate signs, though. They wouldn't be combined. They wouldn't be merged. They'd be two
Wouldn't
separate.
be much. Okay. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. So we do not actually have that at the moment, but we are working on something that will allow you to achieve that. We have something called manage your recipients, and we have something called redacting certain documents from some sections of the recipient workflow. But like I said, it's not currently available, but these are enhancements that are very industry specific. Like not all industries tend to operate in this manner. Most often than not, in HR cases, we just get HR creating requests of an entire stack of documents being sent off to one signer or a bunch of signers. So the level.
The problem is with finance, just to interject, because I know there's lots of finance guys in here, is the problem is that you have to be able to either account for a referral fee and or let's say basis points or some sort of billing that's attached to that account. And so when you bring up the document to force out, it automatically defaults to the actual to the client, not to the user you need to send to or billing that you need to send to, because that's not that client for document. But that's why I'm trying to explain that.
Okay. Yeah, I understand you. So you want the record to not default to. I mean, you want the pop-up that opens up when you click on Send with Zoho Sign to not default to the record itself, but rather onto one of the users or one of the approval folks within your organization.
Well, it should still default to the record, but what I'm saying is it shouldn't default to the contact. It should default to a user, or like as you've set this up here as an individual signer, right? Like, or a group of signers.
Okay. Okay. So I think if you're using Zoho Sign templates, once you've set something up, it retains that configuration. So if I'm not mistaken, inside Zoho CRM, if your particular template has been set to a user, the first time you set it up, the next time you open the same document, it should work in a manner where the user is brought up, but not the record itself. But maybe I can check on that, and you can tell me if it's not working for you, because the way we designed it is such that if there are pre-fill fields and if there is a particular workflow associated with a template, we will retain the configuration of the pre-fill field mapping with the record information, and we will also retain the order of the signing hierarchy, as we call it, with that particular workflow. So the next time you use the exact same Zoho Sign template within the same module, if you had set it up in such a way that the previous time you'd mapped it to a user instead of a record, then it would, just to give you an example, if there are two signers and the first one by default was a record and the second one was somebody else, but you'd change that order around so that the first one would be the other person and the second one was the record. The next time you use the same template, what you'd set up the previous time is going to reflect again. If it is not reflecting, do let me know, because from my understanding and from my use, that has always been the case.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, but I'm happy to have a conversation if that is not reflecting in your case. But what you would ask for in separating the documents out is something we're building. So as and when it releases, we put out an announcement and you can try it out as well. So getting back to users in control. So here, something else I feel like I need to very clearly mention is, so roles determine what data is being shared to the particular role of users, right? So if you have a user with a role user, then whatever data is being available to made available to this particular role of user, that is the only thing that user is ever going to see, unless and until you define something with a custom data sharing. But what we have here in profiles is the ability to assign permissions in addition to the data visibility as well. The reason we have kept this separate is because oftentimes some people need visibility but do not require the option to operate on the document itself. So we've created two separate tabs, one for data sharing and one for permissions on how they can act on this data. So what the permissions allow people to do is that, so just let me just quickly create a profile here and show you what it looks like. So if I create a profile, I can give it a name and a description, and then it allows me to set permissions for what people associated with that profile can do, whether they can prepare documents, whether they can send documents, correct them or delete them. In some cases, say a secretary might prepare a document, but the person sending it out might be their boss. So you can actually clearly define those terms in creating the profile. And the same goes for templates as well. You can actually assign permissions to create templates, edit templates. Even using the template, we've sort of split it across two separate ways. Just being able to use quick send so that they don't customize the template and accidentally make changes to it, or being able to customize a template and send to create an ad hoc request and so on. So this is the start of how we want to provide access control and permissions. But soon we are going to extend this into other things like enabling integrations, setting up workflows, setting up configurations for other organization settings and so on as well. So this is another way in which you can very clearly maintain data access in segmented manners, and you can put up those walls of access for people to have access to only what they need access to. Yeah. Moving on. Now I'm just going to walk you through some integrations that Zoho Sign already has within Zoho, so that for people that do not know that these integrations exist, I hope you benefit from knowing that this is there and you can check it out. And for people who know that this is already there, maybe it gives you some ideas as to what scenarios this might come in really handy under. So to start off with, we obviously are going to be talking about Zoho CRM. And the idea here is Zoho Sign helps you automate paperwork across the entire sales cycle. So right from the moment you have somebody entered into CRM as a lead, and the way you choose to engage with them, send out different forms of paperwork to convert them onto a contact or a customer, and how you go about completing a transaction with them, where you send them sales orders, purchase orders, the various, the inventory template documents like deals, quotes, etc., and have all of it be signed from within CRM itself. The idea is we have an extension that you can install, and this extension will have this button that says Send with Zoho Sign, available across 8 modules off the shelf. But you can also extend the support of this button to custom modules that you create, but that requires a bit of tinkering around to create a custom button and adding some deluge functions or URL-based invoking mechanisms. But the idea is the same. You have this button, and this button would pull up this pop-up that allows you to replicate the kind of workflow that you build inside Zoho Sign, but rather inside Zoho CRM here. And the idea is, as you build out the workflow and you send it out for signature, the document upon signature completion comes back inside Zoho CRM and is contextually accessible under the respective record from which you send the document out. So that way, you never have to actually go to the Zoho Sign application to set things up or to check on things. Rather, you can do it from within CRM itself. And similarly, we have an integration with Zoho Forms. So the idea with Zoho Forms is that you have a form, and the form is used to collect information. And upon submission of that information, it sets off a workflow wherein you process that information in a manner that suits your business operations. More often than not, we see an integration with Zoho CRM from Forms, wherein somebody fills out a form, a record is created in CRM, and that is how a record is introduced inside CRM, and sort of an engagement or a marketing plan is in action that allows you to engage that particular prospect or person who filled out the form further to convert them into a customer. But there are scenarios where you might require people filling out the form to sign a document as well. While you can extend this into a three-way workflow using custom functions, as I mentioned earlier, by getting this into Zoho CRM and then from CRM onto Sign, you also have the option of integrating Sign directly with Forms, where you feel like the use of CRM is not necessary. So just to give you a quick example, if you're using registrations for an event, right, you wouldn't necessarily store the information on a CRM if you're doing several events. So what you would need is, say, when somebody registers for an event, they would need to fill out like an NDA or something that they need to sign as and when they register. So you can set up an integration in such a manner where you can send this particular NDA as and when they fill out the form. So when they hit submit, they immediately receive an email from which they can sign the document. Or even better, if you have it on your website, you can embed it in such a manner where the form automatically redirects them onto the document upon hitting submit to sign the document then and there. So this can also be done. The automation can be set up, and then you can use that information that is obtained from the processing of this information to store the data into the CRM and so on. And then we have the finance suite where we have multiple applications. We have Zoho Books, we have Zoho Invoice, we have inventory, billing, we have checkout, we have practice. The finance suite is fairly elaborate, allowing you to sort of cater to the smaller subdivisions within your finance operations. And oftentimes it requires you to get documents like estimates, invoices, purchase orders, all of that signed either by some approving authority within your organization, or if you're sending quotes out, you might need your customer to approve the quote by signing it so that you can process the transaction and convert that into an invoice. So even that can be done with Zoho Sign's integration. So there is an integration available for each of these applications that you can install from the marketplace, and that would add this ability to sign the documents that you're sending your customers before you send them out. Meaning, if you have an invoice, you can sign the invoice before you send it out. If you have an estimate, you can sign it, request a signature, and then upon the signature being added by the customer, it is marked as the estimate has been accepted and then converted into an invoice and so on. So this is what the customer looks at when they see an estimate that's been sent to them. So all of this functionality is just available off the shelf without you having to set up a workflow, so that you can take advantage of this to get things quickly processed. Now, again, payment collection, I mentioned at the very start that a lot of people do not know exists with Zoho Sign. And this is also something that's fairly built into Zoho Sign, rather than you having to set up a workflow every time you want to collect payments. Maybe it requires a one-time process if you understand how setting up payment pages and payment gateway integrations work. But once that is done, you can use it over and over again to collect payments. So imagine, say, a scenario where you want to collect, say, an advance amount, or you have a policy of, if somebody signs a document, they have to pay for that particular service then and there. Only then is that contract even valid. Then in such scenarios, you can actually integrate the payment collection into Zoho Sign. So what you can actually do is, say you have a document similar to the signature fields and the different forms, different other form fields that you add onto the document. You also have the ability to put a payment field inside the document. And this allows you to actually get them to sign the document and make the payment. And if the payment fails, then the document is not treated as signed, meaning the signature fails. So that is how we built it by design. To give you an example, so this is a document, and I showed you earlier where you can drag and drop fields onto the document, but you also see that there's a payment field. And when you drag and drop a payment field, it says that the payment is collected through Zoho Checkout. That's one of our payment collection applications. And it allows you to choose which payment page that you've already pre-configured in Zoho Checkout, which organization or portal that you're operating with, and what is the currency and what is the amount. So once this is set up, when this document is sent to somebody for the signature, this is what it looks like. So the signer is gonna receive an email, and they're gonna click on that, and they're gonna they're gonna be asked to review the terms of the document. And when they click on start signing, they go through the normal process of being asked to verify their identity if that is enabled, or they simply proceed on to the document where they verify the terms of e-signing and agree to sign the document. So they will proceed to fill out all the different fields of information that they've been asked to fill out. And upon finishing every field, they have an option to finish signing the document, but it says pay and e-sign rather than just finish signing. And now it takes them to the payment page that you've set up inside Zoho Checkout, where they have to enter their information, which is then processed to collect other information like credit card details and so on to finish the payment. And only when the payment is successful is the document actually signed. And this also reflects within Zoho Books as an invoice that is generated for that particular payment that is made. So it's fairly contextual in the sense that it is integrated in the backend with your invoice or books or CRM system as well. So this is something that we've already seen a lot of people use, but at the same time, what we're seeing is the ones who use it to a large volume, but a large user base, a large extent of our user base still remains unaware of this feature even existing within Zoho Sign, or they're maybe not too, they're somewhat reluctant to set it up and try it because they don't understand how it works. But it's very simple as I've shown you. So yeah, these are the various features that I kind of wanted to showcase for for your benefit, and see where it takes you, and also prompt some questions. So with that, I think I'm done with what I wanted to show for this particular session, and I've already had a fair share of questions as I was presenting. But if there are more questions, I'm happy to answer them at this point.
Hey, I have a super quick question. So that's an awesome service of signing, like paying as you sign a document. So my question would be, is it integrated with Stripe? We're up in Canada, so I don't know. Like, can I use Stripe as the payment processor?
Yeah, so we have integrations with different payment gateways across different geographies. So in the US and Canada, Stripe, PayPal are all integrated with Zoho Checkout. So depending on your preference of who the payment gateway provider that you want in your payment page, you can have it. In fact, I think if I'm not mistaken, Zoho Checkout has launched Zoho Payments, which is one of which is our own in-house solution, which allows you to collect payments as well. So this Zoho Payments solution can itself act as a payment provider, or allow you to build a payment page with multiple providers, multiple payment service providers, and allow your customer to choose which gateway they're comfortable with for making the payment as well.
It's a great feature, because right now, after they sign, then I send them a payment link afterwards via their contact. And I built a customized, click this button to pay your bill. But having it all in one is amazing. That's phenomenal. Yeah. That's killer.
That's the idea here. And the way we built the integration also means that if there are any enhancements made to Zoho Checkout, they would automatically apply to Zoho, the workflow within Sign as well, because it's just an API call that we're making at the time of signing the document. And based on whether we receive a response as a payment successful or a payment failure, we process the document signature application. And if there is a payment failure, the signature fails, but that does not mean that the entire process comes to a halt. Rather, they can reattempt the payment. And if the payment goes through, then that response is still sent to Zoho Sign, and then the status of the document will change retroactively as well.
So let's see, you had okay, somebody's answering about the client portal. Okay, maybe an add-on fee for client portals.
Yes. So if you're using Zoho Books or Zoho or any of the finance apps, or even I think CRM as well, there is a provision for client portals, but it will be subject to the features available in the respective plan that you subscribe to. So some plans do not include the provision to have a client portal for your clients. But in the plans that it is available in, you can use that to have your clients agree to estimates that you send out. But something I feel the need to explain here is, say if you have Zoho Books, but you don't have the plan that allows you to provision a client portal for your clients, you can still get your estimates approved by your clients. What it would do is, instead of sending it to their client portal, it would send it to them in an email. So similar to how you would get your documents signed from Zoho Sign, same process occurs, but via Zoho Books instead, where they would get the estimate in their email. And at that time, they can use the link to go and approve that estimate, at which point you get that notified within your system, and you can convert that to an invoice and so on.
I hate using the camera. You see all the flaws in your hair. So then piggybacking off of that, if I have the client portal subscription, or if I get it, and if I'm exchanging documents with the client that are created outside of Zoho, would I still be able to drag those documents into their portal so that I could have one central place for the client?
That's a great question. As of now, the way the client portal works is it is provisioned across each of the respective services. So if you have a client portal for Zoho Books, any documents that you exchange with the client through Zoho Books would be available there. But the portal that then if you have the client's record in CRM and you happen to exchange some documents with them through CRM, that would not be available inside the client portal that you provisioned via Zoho Books, because the portals are kept separate across services. Because the idea here is each service corresponds to a separate portal, but there is a plan to unify the portals, at least in Zoho One at this point, because we know that the documents across services would often overlap or would often have information that needs to be contextually presented. Um, but yeah, thanks for the question. I don't think that is available right now. And in Zoho Sign, I don't think we have the option to provision a client portal at this point, even via Zoho One. And this is because, like I said, we blanket all documents as confidential information. And often people who work with the application may, by mistake, end up sharing documents which are confidential with people who are not required to see them.
Got it. So if I needed that functionality, I would have to subscribe to Client Portal for each of the significant modules I'm using. I do have Zoho One.
So Zoho One by default would entitle you to the client portal feature in all of the applications that are a part of Zoho One. Because there are add-ons in Zoho One, but I don't believe client portal by itself is one. It is offered off the shelf because it is available in most of the top plans across all our services, and Zoho One is something that includes all the top plans put together. But if you're not able to provision it, do let me know, and I'll find out know what's happening with the other application that you're trying to provision it for. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Linda. Yeah. Anybody else have questions for me?
Yes. So I got a question, just because I built out all these automations myself, but I was wondering if anybody in your team would do an audit of my automations to help me improve or maybe clean up best practices so that I can actually eliminate even more steps. Like I love the idea of trimming the fat on this stuff. So, I was wondering if maybe I could book time with one of you guys.
So we're more than happy to sort of help you set up, help you get your stuff audited. But it's just that we have this very gray area of, not wanting to breach any of our customers' privacy. Like sometimes customers inadvertently end up showing us things that we are not supposed to see. So as long as you're able to isolate your information system in such a manner that our agent is able to access only the automation, the back end of things, we are happy to get on a call and just see through to understand how you set it up and if there is anything that you need to change and so on.
So, yeah, it's great. Okay, I gotta go. Thanks for your time, man. This was a good one.
Yeah,
This
all
is
right.
really good.
All right. So are there any further questions? All right, I can see that there are no further questions. So I just want to quickly give you a glimpse of what our customers say. So I have handpicked a few of our customers who tend to operate in this finance space. So there's Tom, who's actually built a beautiful application that dispenses loans in Kenya. And in fact, just as of yesterday, we received news that this application has enabled us to even be recognized as one of the top digital signature vendors in all of Africa, because it allows people to access credit in a country where digital systems are still sort of making their entry into how people move on with their lives. So and Tom thinks Zoho Sign is a wonderful application because it integrates the signing workflows into their loan dispensing application. And we also have Flint, who's based out of the US, who runs a one-man insurance company. And he used to use DocuSign, but ever since he switched to Zoho Sign, he's been all smiles. And it's something that he's loved using. And yeah, for those who operate in the tax filing industry, you perhaps be interested in seeing what Gina has to say as to how it has helped her clients file taxes faster. So this is just like snippets of some clients telling us, hey, this is nice. I really like using your application because it talks to my application and it allows me to get my job done in a better manner. So just something I felt like I could share with you, and hopefully, you would help you motivate this. I mean, have you helped this? Have this help motivate you into helping your clients better with Zoho Sign. Wow. Yeah. All right. So I'll move on to the resources page in case any of you wants to understand what resources we have at our disposal for you to get into Zoho Sign, use it better, understand where our community is, what facilities or services you can avail as far as Zoho Sign goes. Feel free to access any of these resources that you see on your screen right now. You can also always write to us. We are happy to respond to any queries you might have. We are very receptive to feedback. We work with our clients fairly closely to understand their needs and build smaller solutions that can help them then and there. Or we even understand like an entire industry's use of our application and try and build that as a feature into our application so that it helps those people get their things done faster. And so do access these resources and be vocal in telling us what you like or do not like about our application, so we can learn from it and improve our services. Okay, I can see the chat. I can see that a lot of people have given me feedback. Thank you for that. I hope to sort of give you an even deeper dive into the application in one of our webinars. You can find that on our website. And at any point in time, feel free to write to us if you have doubts about how to go about one of these implementations. And there's a lot of opportunities for you to use Zoho Sign within your your normal business scenarios. And we are always happy to and help you get the application running for what you need to save time on and get your paperwork signed. We still say we're helping people go from using paper documents to paperless, but at this point in time, I think we sort of need to shift our messaging as well, because we see that a lot of people are using our tools. It's just that since it's fairly overwhelming and technology in general is not something that people like using unless and until they understand it extensively, they're very hesitant to get their hands deeper with the application. So we are always happy to help you out on that front. All right, Sushmita, Srinidhi, you have anything to add?
I think Srinidhi was just going to talk about the Click channel for a bit, and then maybe we can wrap up.
All right, yeah, happy to.
Hello everyone. So we have a Click channel, which is basically like a chat room where you can share your tips, ask questions, and answer other people's questions. So if you're already not part of the Click channel, then please send me a mail to my mail address, which I've provided in the chat box. So yeah, are there any other questions? Okay.
I've added Sai to the Click channel as well. So now you guys, since you were all like blown away by his presentation, you can use this as an excuse to engage in the channel and ask him further questions on Zoho.
Yeah, I love being troubled. Because I mean, I'm part of a bunch of these user group channels, and I absolutely love all the various challenges or the interesting implementation stories that come my way. So always happy to help you out. And even if you do not understand something and you want to learn as to why it works a certain way, you have queries which extend beyond the application. You want to understand how the legality of something works. You want to understand why we build something in a certain manner. Feel free to post them. It at the end of the day, these are all informal interactions. So we feel like we should not be restricting ourselves to sort of a very formal conversations. We want to really help you, do your business better. Yeah.
Okay, so I hope you found the session useful, and see you on the next meetup. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sushmita. Thank you, Srinidhi, for having me as well. Bye.